Mao Zedong was a communist dictator and chairman of the Communist Party of China. Under his rule, tens of millions of people were killed and persecuted. He caused the greatest famine in human history. Cannibalism became rampant in some parts of China as a result, and he would execute people for the most minor of reasons. He destroyed Chinese culture and committed some of the worst human rights abuses in history. In this video, we are going to discuss top 5 most horrible facts about Mao Zedong. Number 5. His Cultural Revolution was a disaster. The Cultural Revolution was started by Mao Zedong. He thought that it would unseat the ruling class. This involved the purging of capitalists, traditionalists, and eventually liberals. In 1996, Mao launched the revolution. He forced his opponents out of the Communist Party of China by calling for a class struggle. People all over China responded to his call and set up groups of Red Guards. The idea infected not just the minds of the people, but the military and government as well. It resulted in violent outbreaks all over China. Millions of people were persecuted in the events that followed. People were subject to public humiliation, arbitrary imprisonment, torture, hard labor, and execution. The movement held the country back politically and greatly damaged its economy. It's been described as one of China's greatest setbacks. It lasted for 10 years from 1966 to 1976 and only ended once Mao had been killed. Number 4. He staged nude ballets. Mao had a cultural work troupe, a group of girls on staff hired to dance with him. They were artists in part, although they were mostly chosen for their looks and their ability to keep their mouths shut. Sometimes he would take them to his swimming pool, where he would have them strip off their clothes and perform a naked aquatic ballet. More often, though, he took them ballroom dancing, something that for most Chinese people was a bourgeoisie crime. But for Mao, it was forgiven. Vice Chairman Wang Dongxing organized the dances at the Spring Lotus Chamber. There, Mao and his men would dance with beautiful women until Mao picked one to take to his bedroom. That happens so often that Mao eventually had a bed put in the room next door, a place where he and one of the girls could take a rest. Number 3. He was born from a peasant family. Born on the 26th of December 1893 in Shaoxing, Hunan Province, China, Mao was a son of a peasant farmer. His mother Wen Kaimi was a loving and kind Buddhist, while his father Mao Yiqing was a strict, hard-working Confucian. Yiqing strived to get out of his father's debt and became a self-made man by buying land from other impoverished peasants and lending money. The Maos became one of the richest families in the village and were living in luxury compared to their neighbors who lived in ardent poverty and always feared they would starve to death. A case not so familiar with most peasant families, the Maos could afford to send their son to school, and Zedong loved to read and learn. Coming from Shaoxing, such a background village that couldn't even afford a magazine, Mao learned so much from school, including the story about an emperor who had died and then succeeded by a 2-year-old relative, Puvi. Number 2. His son died in the Korean War. The Korean War, the civil war that pitted South Korea and its anti-communist allies against North Korea and its communist allies from June 1950 to July 1953, is known in China as the War to Resist U.S. Aggression and Aid Korea. Although the Communist Chinese government was hesitant to intervene, Mao insisted that they send troops to help North Korea. He was afraid that the U.S. and the UN forces might attack China, but he also thought that it was a good opportunity to show off to the communist world. The Chinese eventually entered the war in October, sending 1.2 million volunteers. Although the war was short, the poorly equipped Chinese army suffered a shocking number of casualties. While the precise number of dead isn't exactly known, the government itself has said that 114,084 soldiers were killed in military action, 25,621 soldiers were missing, and another 70,000 were lost to wounds or illnesses. Many families were affected by this devastating war, including Mao's. Mao's 28-year-old son, Anying, was one of its casualties. Other party leaders thought it was a bad idea for Anying to fight, but Mao had no problem with it. "Who will go if my son doesn't?" he asked. Anying died in an American bombing raid only a month into the Chinese intervention. When Mao was informed of the news, he couldn't eat or sleep for the rest of the day. It was his misfortune to be Mao Zedong's son. He remarked, and then spent the night doing nothing but sitting in grief and smoking. Number 1. Mao Zedong nurtured a creepy cult of personality. It takes a lot to keep a country as vast as China under your thumb. Mao Zedong did this with a very special secret weapon. He turned himself into the central figure of a cult-like movement. The second, the communist red flag was raised in Beijing. Another soon-to-be important symbol arose over the gates of the Forbidden City, a portrait of Mao himself. From that moment on, Mao's pictures were highly visible in workplaces and schools alike. The great helmsman made sure that there were always plenty of songs about his greatness, and that it was compulsory to study Mao Zedong thought. As a result of this constant exposure, Mao became something of a godman or a folk deity, a demigod character of sorts, whose defining characteristic in the public eyes is his greatness. China has admitted that Mao Zedong made some mistakes. However, the ratio of his admitted mistakes and official infallibility appears to be roughly 30-70, and he remains an incredibly esteemed figure in the giant country. This juggling act between the great helmsman's personality cult and his admitted mistakes can get downright weird. For instance, there's a popular Beijing brewery called the Great Leap. Let us know your opinion in the comment section below. This was all for today. Hope you liked the video. Do not forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay safe, and we will be back soon with another video.